Where do you go when life is hard? What happens when there's a jerk in charge? How do you cope when problems are too large? You find your own crew. You keep pushing through. You find that there is more than just you. At the Inclusion Effect. The Inclusion Effect. Welcome to the Inclusion Effect.
Hello and welcome to the Inclusion Effect. I'm Anna and I'm here to talk with guests and with all of you about disability advocacy, inclusion, and the ups and downs of navigating a world that isn't always built for the disability community. Today's guest here with me is Sara. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your family and why you're on this podcast?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Sara Robinson. My family consists of me and my husband, William. He is from Northern Ireland. So if you ever hear him on our channel, it's a weird accent. It's good.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah. We met, I lived over there for a year and we met and I brought him back to America. So yeah, so he's Northern Irish. Yeah. Yeah. And we married 10 years ago and we have 4 girls. We have twin girls who are 7 years old. There are kiddos who have Down syndrome. They're identical twins, so they both have Down syndrome. And then we have a 5-year-old Charlotte. We have a almost 2-year-old Harper, and that's our family.
Awesome. Okay, so your first 2 were the ones with Down syndrome. That's opposite of a lot of people's stories, I know. What was that like finding out?
Yeah, so whenever we got pregnant, we had been trying for a while, and we found out at 7 weeks that they were twins. We went into the doctor. It was way too early for any ultrasounds, but he was like, let's just do it because I know you've been waiting for this. So he does the ultrasound and sees that they're completely separate. So we assume that they are fraternal twins because the entire pregnancy they had separate placentas. They were completely separate in the womb. They showed as fraternal twins the whole time. I was 26 whenever I got pregnant. Yeah, 26. And all of the ultrasounds were completely normal. I never went to an MFM or like specialist because the doctor who was delivering my babies, he had twins. His wife had twins. And he was confident in it. And there was literally no reason for us to do any further testing. We did not do the NIPT because at that time it wasn't covered by insurance. And in my mind, the only reason that we would do it would be to find out the gender, and it wouldn't be conclusive with fraternal twins because there's no way to know.
Yeah.
So we didn't do any of that. We did the regular tests, the regular scans, the regular everything else. But there were 0 red flags the entire pregnancy. So we got to 36 weeks or like 35 weeks. And they noticed that baby A, which is Katie, that her placenta was calcifying. It was just aging quicker than it should. And that her growth was kind of plateauing. So they were like, well, you know what? 36 weeks is a great time to deliver them. Let's go ahead and do it. So we scheduled the C-section. They didn't want to risk doing a natural birth with the placenta issue with Katie. So did a very calm delivery, no issues, just textbook delivery of twins.
Yeah.
And honestly, my pregnancy was so smooth. It was, I don't really know what else to say about that. But after they were delivered, I was in like a recovery room. It wasn't my room for the whole stay, but it was kind of where you recover from anesthesia and everything like that. So I was in there. They brought the babies to me. They told us beforehand they were a little bit small. So Katie would be going to the NICU because she was like just under the amount of grams for staying with us. But otherwise they weren't on feeding tubes. They weren't on any kind of oxygen. They were healthy. They bring them to us in the recovery room. And these 2 doctors come in who I thought were just the regular like pediatrician to give them a check. And this person comes in and says, hey, were you aware that they present with all the markers for Down syndrome, all the physical markers? And this is me 20 minutes out of being, major surgery. And I'm still like shaking from the anesthesia because it makes me really cold. And I'm like, no. And my husband's obviously dumbfounded, no, we didn't recognize any of that. We thought they were just, because, newborns look like little aliens. There's no, to me, newborns are they always look like little shriveled up people. And we didn't recognize anything. The doctor was like, oh, so you didn't know in advance that the babies have Down syndrome. And we just went into shock at that point. We didn't know. So over the next few days, we lived in this weird place of denial, research. Obviously, the first thing I did was go to Google that night and look up Down syndrome. What pediatricians come in the room? They come in the room, and I just thought they were giving the girls a check, like looking over them and everything. And one of them says to us, like, did you know that all of the girls, or both of the girls, have all of the physical markers for Down syndrome? And my husband and I looked at each other and we're like, no. To me, they look like, little newborns. Newborns don't look like anything. They're
potatoes.
Just, they're just little lumps. And I don't remember my reaction other than just being in shock, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to think because I only knew one person with Down syndrome growing up. And in my mind, I couldn't even think of him in that moment. And I grew up in very rural Georgia. And the age that the person I knew that grew up, it wasn't the same as today. And so it was maybe not. Anyways, that night I remember because Madison stayed in the room with us. And Katie stayed in the NICU, just weight issues. She had no issues. And I remember Googling that night, looking up Down syndrome, and it's all the horrible things that show up on Google. And I was trying to find someone with twins because I couldn't, I had never heard of that. I didn't know anyone with Down syndrome. And so I found 2 accounts that night. I found Doubling Down Mom and Chuckles and Meatloaf, Julie's kids. And they were both, I think the Doubling Down girls are like 1 year older than mine. So I was seeing them at 1 year old and seeing Chuckles and Meatloaf. They're a few years older than my girls. That was the only thing I clung on to at that point. We spent the next few days in the hospital just recovering and kind of living in that space between denial and reality. We didn't tell anyone for the first couple of days. The thing that I remember is the first day after all this happened. So after the first day, this really perky blonde nurse or PA, she was not like our doctor, but she was part of the medical staff, part of the genetic staff, I think. And she comes in and just tells me well, congratulations. You just need to accept that they have Down syndrome. We're going to wait on the blood work, but you just need to move on. And I don't think she said move on, but she basically was just saying this is it. There is no room for doubting or considering that it might not be Down syndrome, which is where I wanted to live at that point. And I just remember that being so awful. And if you fast forward 6 months, I had made friends in the Down syndrome community. And one person in particular, we were living in Jacksonville, Florida at the time. Mm-hmm. And one of the people that I made friends with, I was telling her that story about the really perky blonde girl. And she says, that's my neighbor. That is legitimately my neighbor. I know her name. And she told me about the twins with Down syndrome because she wanted to connect you guys.
Oh my gosh.
It turned out that my friend that I had made through the Down syndrome community had a baby that was, I want to say she's 1 or 2 months older. She was born in December and my girls were in January. And when she was told the news, it was very wishy-washy. And she was like, they wouldn't tell me if it was Down syndrome or if it was, they wanted to wait on the blood test. And her neighbor, she had told her, she had asked, I deliver this news all the time. What's the best way to do it? And my friend, who is very not me, She said, just tell them bluntly, tell them exactly, like, don't sugarcoat it, tell them exactly. And I was like, oh man, that is not good advice for everybody. But anyways, it was just a funny like connection.
That's
That it was her
crazy.
neighbor
Yeah.
that delivered the news. Yeah. 'Cause
Wow.
Jacksonville's not a small city. Like it's a big city.
Yeah.
But that's how it happened.
She was
Yeah.
trying to overcorrect then.
Yeah. And yeah. Just wasn't the same approach for me.
No, you got to read the room
Yeah,
in that
so-
situation.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a birth diagnosis. We got the blood work back. I mean, by the time we got the blood work back, we were like, okay, yeah, we can see it. We can see, the facial features. And they don't have, they had their nasal bone, and they didn't have like the neck or the hand things that you typically look for, but we were able to see it by the time we got the blood work back. And then we did testing further because my OB was like, there is no way they're fraternal. Absolutely no way they're fraternal if they both have Down syndrome. And so
that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did the testing and found out that they were identical. They just split very, very early.
That is so wild. One of my sisters had twins a year ago, or gosh, they're almost 2 now. So 2 years ago, but she, and they're both girls, and she got asked so many silly questions about if they're fraternal, if they're identical, like how everything works. And so I've learned all about that. And it is so rare what you guys went through. That is wild.
Yeah, very, very rare. And they have just the typical trisomy 21. They don't have translocation or anything like that.
Okay. And how long was Katie in the NICU?
She was discharged with us. So they were born on a Thursday. We went home on a Sunday. It really was just wait at that point. And they were very proactive. Once they suspected that they had Down syndrome, they did echoes on both girls. Found out that Katie had a significant heart defect and that Madison had a hole, but they weren't very concerned about that one. So
it's amazing. Truly. Wow. So what happened from there? What did life look like?
Yeah, it's a blur of diapers and feeding from there. So, I mean, within a month, or I want to say it was within a few weeks, we went to the cardiologist to have repeat scans done. And they told us kind of the severity of Katie's. They put her on Lasix because they could see that her lungs were being affected, and that Madison's would most likely resolve on its own, which it did. And Katie kind of started deteriorating around month 2. She went into the hospital for a week, and that's when they placed her on a feeding tube because her heart was failing faster than she was growing. So we were trying to get her to 9 pounds before surgery. And so she ended up having surgery at 4 months, open heart surgery to fix holes in her heart. And honestly, all of that time, we were just in pure survival mode. That's all we could do, was just survive. And I feel like I started processing feelings probably after their first year, because the first year was just a whirlwind of trying to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that was the case for me, is I didn't process a lot of my feelings around medical trauma with Addie until after she was home and healthy. So with twins, I can only imagine that's magnified. You have to survive because there's 2 little babies, Yeah,
and like people always ask, like, oh my gosh, how hard is it with twins? And my honest answer is we don't know any different. So I feel like if it's your first, that it is much easier to have twins first than it is to have single ones first and then move up to twins. Because we had 2 singles after that, and our single ones were like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. So yeah.
2 typical children with the normal amount of chromosomes and only one of them. So easy mode.
And you get almost like the sense of pride where you're like, okay, I know how to do this. And man, these people with 1 kid that are complaining, oh my gosh.
You have earned that pride. Yeah. You've earned that. Oh my gosh. For sure. Okay, and then something else that you post a lot about is that the girls both have dual diagnoses. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so we moved to Arizona in 2021 when they were 2.5. I will say that Arizona has a lot more resources than Florida. They're much more on top of it. Arizona has, we didn't know it at the time, but we landed in a really great spot as far as disabilities go in Arizona.
Yes.
So one of the things that they have is at the Children's Hospital, which is like less than 20 minutes from us, which is amazing.
That is amazing.
They have a Down syndrome clinic. So you go once a year to this clinic and they kind of give you an overview of the year, and you see OT, PT, speech. They update your referrals, all your prescriptions, that kind of thing. It's great, great clinic. One of the things at their 3-year-old visit that the developmental pediatrician brought up was that she wanted to have the girls tested for autism. And we were like, okay, I mean, we don't see anything, because we honestly didn't know much about autism at that point.
Yeah.
We don't see anything, but sure. I mean, it's not like they're not doing blood draws or anything. It's literally, they just play for a few hours. So it doesn't hurt them, just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So, and because medical is covered in Arizona for our kiddos, then it's not a cost issue either. Yeah. Big deal. So we did the testing. I took Katie to hers and William took Madison, and it is basically just play. They do a lot of paperwork ahead of time. You do a lot of questions. And then when they do the actual evaluation, they just observe them in different settings and like call their name. It's very low key, not a big deal. And they said that Katie had autism for sure, but that Madison, they wanted to wait and reevaluate her later. So she actually just got her diagnosis last year at age 6.
Wow.
Yeah. But Katie's had it since 3. The behaviors that they isolated as being autistic are ones that at the time we thought were just Down syndrome related. We thought they were just developmental delays, global delays, because they have all of that. And they weren't speaking. But at 3, neither were their peers with Down syndrome. But as they've aged a little bit more, we can definitely see that gap between them and their peers with Down syndrome who don't have autism.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
Yeah, there's definitely some gaps there. But it's hard because autism is so varied by person. So like our girls don't have yet the really obvious behavioral problems. A lot of their peers at school who have autism as their main diagnosis, it's behavioral, and it's really obvious to see that they have autism. But it's maybe not diagnosed as frequently in kids with Down syndrome.
Yes.
Because it's presenting a little differently. But I'm really glad that the doctors saw that in the girls and were able to say, hey, they need a little extra support. So we were able to get them
early. That's amazing.
Yeah, they caught it and in girls, like usually autism is diagnosed more frequently in boys.
Yes,
they said there's about whenever we went to the psychologist, she said there's about a 20% co-occurrence with Down syndrome for autism. So
yeah, and for anybody that doesn't know, and I'm sure Sara can speak to this a lot more than I can, I'm much earlier on in this process, but a lot of times people with Down syndrome aren't diagnosed, if ever, until much, much older, because it's expected that they have developmental delays. It's expected that they might have certain behavioral behaviors and certain sensory issues, things like that. And obviously, like they can be nonverbal for longer or forever, things like that. And so it's a lot of times just not diagnosed, or parents feel, well, they're already getting help for Down syndrome. Why do they need an extra diagnosis? There's a lot of reasons. And so, at age 3, to have one diagnosed and the other on the radars, truly, that's a gift. That's amazing.
Yeah, and as far as what they specifically pointed out was behaviors like stimming, because Katie stims a lot as far as rocking and like with her hands, verbal stimming, a lot of like, because she makes eye contact, she's very loving. Autism presents very differently in girls versus boys. So those behaviors would have been easily overlooked. And it hasn't changed much for us day to day. Having the diagnosis hasn't changed much until now, when they're 7 and not potty trained and nonverbal for the most part. And they don't, there is definitely a separation between them and their peers with Down syndrome. But it didn't change anything besides extra therapy. But it does make a big difference in the area of like for Arizona for funding, for school funding. People with autism get a much larger educational value. I don't know if that's the right word. So it's been helpful in that way too, to help support their school.
That's great. And what has schooling looked like so far for the girls?
Yeah, once again, we are so lucky to be in Arizona, and we're so thankful for how it's provided. The first thing they did was they went straight into pre-K. Just with the public school, they had developmental pre-K at 3, and they did that for a year. It was great. And then from a friend, because everyone in the Down syndrome community is super connected, we went to some event, and a friend told us about this school called Life. It's Lauren's Institute for Education, and it's a private school. You go on their website, and all you see is that it costs like $40-something thousand, or it's like really a big crazy number, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, click X off that.
And you've got two of them.
Exactly, yeah. So I didn't even consider that. And this friend said, no, you don't understand. That number is the number that it costs them, but they do not charge families that. So I called them and found out that what happens is they do fundraisers throughout the year with donors. They do private scholarships, Arizona tax credit scholarships. They do whatever. They do all of these things so that families only pay a registration fee that's very minimal.
Wow.
So we got them into there, and they take all of the state funding for therapies. You can get all of your therapies done there, provided they have enough providers. They have after school program that's covered by the state, all of these things. And so we went and toured, and it's unbelievable. They have programs from 3 years old until they have adult programs. They have job entry programs. They don't stop. They have day treatment programs. They have all of these things. And we are just so thankful for them. So we've been going there for 3.5 years now. They've become like another family to us. They're teachers, and they have done so well with the girls. They've treated them really well. I can't tell you enough about this school.
That is so amazing. Wow.
Don't want to leave ever. So
yeah. Wow, that's amazing. And I will say Arizona is one of 2 states that my husband and I constantly talk about moving to, Colorado and Arizona. They really do have such great oh my gosh, I'm working on
we
it.
would love it.
I'm in his ear like, what if we move? Because they just have such great programs. And our state, we live in Oregon, and they are really great too, but it's not comparable. Those 2 states are so far and away ahead of things as far as disabilities and wild. So I'm so
Just
glad you
want to say,
looked into that.
Looking at our highs this week, I mean, you should move here.
That is crazy.
The winter's great.
I think it's 25 out right now.
Yeah. The winters are great here. Summers are pretty terrible, but we have a lot of things that we can do inside. So, yeah.
Yeah, and here, if you don't have a newer house or apartment complex or whatever, you don't have AC. So I don't think people understand. Every house, I lived in Mesa when I was really little. Every house has AC. That's not a thing. Nobody doesn't have AC in Arizona. So it's okay.
Yeah, it's really just the time from your car into whatever building you're going into. That's the time. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so school's going good. What about Katie and Madison being big siblings?
Yeah, so Charlotte came along as a surprise. We knew we wanted to have more kids, but Charlotte came along as a surprise a little bit earlier than we expected. So there's less than 2 years between her and the twins, like just under 2 years. And so whenever she was born, they didn't really care. They were still babies themselves, but they have loved having Harper. Harper, let's see, they would have been 5, just over 5 when Harper was born. And they say her name. That's one of the very few words. But like this morning, I got them out of their room. They ran over into Harper and Charlotte's room. Harper. They're just, they love having sisters. Yeah. And they play together pretty well.
That's kind of a hard word too. Harper. That's impressive.
Yeah. They don't have the H sound really, but they just go Harper.
Still, that's great.
Close enough.
Oh, they love their baby then.
Yes. They sometimes Katie can be a little bit overbearing with her love. But otherwise, yeah, they love having baby sisters. Mm-hmm.
That's so
Charlotte
sweet.
definitely takes the role
Addie.
of oldest.
Yes, yes. Addie, we have my twin nieces, and they are almost 2, and she also is a little bit overbearing. She loves them so much, but her hugs turn into kind of like tackling them to the ground,
It's
and we're
like,
like,
yeah,
gotta separate a little bit because they're getting
yeah,
close to the same size and skill sets now,
yes,
So I'm like, you gotta be gentle with your love. I know this is nice, but they don't know that.
yeah,
It can be hard.
yeah. We definitely
And you post
experienced
a lot
that.
about, yes, I believe it. And you also post, maybe not a lot, but I've seen it a few times about how people always think they're triplets.
Yeah, yeah, we get that a
That is
lot.
so cute.
Because they are close in size. Charlotte is starting to get bigger than them now,
Yeah.
because she's typically developing. But yeah,
Yeah.
they've been triplets for about 2 years, I think.
That is so sweet. And does she totally step into that role? She's happy to be, in a little
Yeah.
threesome.
Yes, she likes to dress like them, like in like little outfits all together, and she definitely gets mistaken as the oldest sibling, just because she's verbal and she's a very
Of
take charge
course.
kind of kid, so she gets mistaken for that a lot. But it doesn't really
Love
matter.
that. Love that. She's a girl boss already.
Oh, she is.
Okay. That is so cute. Okay, so another thing that I think is really interesting that I think people would love to hear about is your guys' faith in church.
Yeah, so my husband and I were both raised in church. My husband's family are all pastors, and we were raised in the same denomination. That's how we met, how we married, and everything. So we were both on a path towards ministry before our kids came. He was a worship pastor in Florida, and that's what we were doing whenever we had the girls. And then we moved out to Arizona to be children's pastors at a church out here that we're still a part of. And as we got into family ministry, we obviously wanted to make space for anyone who showed up at our church that had different needs. And the people who were already there welcomed our girls and took care of them. They didn't bat an eye at doing diapers past age 2 or, any of that kind of stuff. But under that, we also realized that there was a need to invite our community into church, because if we weren't already connected, if we hadn't already had that background, knew that church was a safe space for us, we probably wouldn't have approached it without some sort of invitation. Because the reality is, whenever you have kids, especially if your kids have aggressive behaviors or negative behaviors or things like that, you don't feel welcome in social places. You don't feel welcome in public because you get the stares, you get the whatever. You can't just drop your kid off at the gym daycare. Like it's just not. Yeah, you just can't do that. And we realized there was a need to intentionally invite people into our community, even if they're not into organized religion, even if they're not into that, bringing them into a community where they can find love and acceptance no matter what, was really important to us. So we partnered with an organization and eventually formed our own, called Buddy Club, which is just one expression of that invitation. So what we do, we've been running it for nearly 4 years. March will be 4 years. Every month, every third Friday, our church sanctuary space, we clear it out of all the chairs. We open up all kinds of sensory gym activities. We have wheelchair accessible sports, just all kinds of activities open in the gym. In the sanctuary. And we open up karaoke and crafts and just lots of stuff for different age ranges. And what people do is they register and they bring their loved one who has a developmental disability, not just Down syndrome, but any developmental disability. And they drop them off for a night of respite for free. So we pair up their loved one with a one-on-one buddy, usually people from the church, sometimes people from different sports groups or schools who need community service hours, or anyone who wants to serve with people with disabilities, they're buddies, and we just hang out with them for the night while their parents can go do whatever. Their caregivers can go grocery shopping, or they can go for a date night, or they can go for a nap, just whatever they want to do. They can leave. Sometimes local community groups, like there's one called Care for the Caregivers. They'll set up things. This past time they said, hey, we're going to meet at Cheddar's after on us. Just space to connect. Sometimes people stay at the church and they just chill for a few hours or whatever. The main thing is that it's free and we don't use their state hours. We don't use anything like that. But it's a safe place where their kids can be dropped off. So we have kids as young as my girls, which are the minimum threshold is 6 right now. We would like to open it up to younger kids, but I think it would need to be a separate night or a separate event. But we have people as young as our kids and then as old as in their 50s. All different diagnoses, all levels of care. We always have a medical person, a safety person to watch the doors because there's like 6 exit doors in that building. But it's what we have. So yes. So
you're doing what you can do.
Yeah. So we're just trying to prevent anything like that. We have safety, medical, and then we just have an overabundance of buddies to play, hang out, and just love on people, get to know them. So we've had people who have been to almost, it is so much fun. And it's one of those things where I don't have to recruit people all the time. Sometimes in church ministry, you're constantly asking, I need more volunteers. But when it comes to Buddy Club, you get someone to volunteer once and they're in. They see how fun it is. You just let go for a night. You do karaoke and it's fantastic. It's just a wonderful thing. So our goal this year is we are forming a nonprofit around Buddy Club so that we can expand. So we have 2 sites that we want to open this year across Arizona, and we would love to just keep going, and because it's a very easy concept, it's low cost.
It is.
All you need are volunteers and a space, and then some startup funds to get the equipment and snacks and that kind of thing. But relatively low cost, and it makes such a big difference. We have had parents, especially single parents, who are like, I don't know what I would do without Buddy Club. My respite provider calls out all the time, my XYZ, I need this. And it's an easy way for the church to show people that we actually love them and care for them no matter what. And I think that's who we should be.
I think that is beyond amazing. A couple things. So one, as a person who does not regularly attend church, I feel paralyzing fear thinking about the thought of just cold showing up to a church with Addie. And I think of like sitting in the pews trying to keep her quiet and trying to keep her, you know what I mean? That sounds terrifying. So having an accessible way to dip your feet into it would be, that's huge. That you're right. Like it makes sense you want to invite the community in, because I would not just show up to a church with Addie. I wouldn't. Right. And not because I don't think that she would like it. I think she would love it. She would love to run around and knock everything over and scream and be herself. But I'd be worried that other people wouldn't like that. So I think that is amazing. And then also, obviously, the respites, that's invaluable. That's amazing. I hope your nonprofit is beyond successful. That's a great idea.
Thank you.
We have something like that here, and the minimum age is 5. So I haven't been able to utilize it yet, but I cannot wait.
Yeah. Another thing we want to be able to do is welcome siblings, because I have a few families who are like, that's great, but where do I take their siblings whenever we can't actually go for a date night? So I would love to do that as well. But kind of because we were already in this church, we already knew like the kids building's even a separate building. So there's like, a whole thing. We're not a huge church, but I think it used to be. And so they have like multiple buildings. And, but my perception of church was definitely the one building with the pews with, keeping your kids quiet, or the old ladies are going to like, shh, that's kind of the perception. And just changing that for people, letting them know if your kid stays with you in the whole service and they stim the whole time, no one is going to call you out. And creating culture like that takes time. It takes a lot of introductions. It takes showing them what worship can look like for someone who's maybe neurodivergent. And I am very proud of our church that they have really embraced that, and they've shown that in a lot of different ways.
It sounds like they really embraced it. I love that so much,
Mhm.
especially for the girls. They're going to have such a good little community to grow up with. That's amazing.
Yes, the church is one of their favorite places, and they've had the same like Sunday school teachers forever, and they just know them so well and love them. So yeah, it is great
Oh,
to have that kind of community because you have the Down syndrome community, but you also want to be able to exist in spaces that you were in before your diagnosis, whether
yes.
that's church
Yeah.
or other community places, and
Yeah.
you would hope that they would be just as welcomed wherever they are.
Yes, absolutely. That's great. I love that so much. Oh my gosh. That's great. Are you planning, I guess, are you wanting to open it in other churches, or are you just wanting to expand? Do you have like a plan for that, I guess?
Yeah, so right now, so the denomination that my husband and I are part of is the Church of the Nazarene. I don't know if you've heard of that one before. It's a Wesleyan denomination. We're worldwide, and because we've grown up in it, that's where we know people the most. So that's where
Makes
we're
sense.
starting. But we
Yeah, that
wouldn't
makes
have
sense.
anything against doing it in other faith traditions or other places. The reason that
Yeah.
churches work so well is there's already a base of volunteers. There's already people who are wanting to do good, and there's already usually a physical building that we can use at low or no cost. So
Yeah.
the way Phoenix, well, you grew up in Mesa, so we're in Chandler. That's where our church is. We're hoping to open a location in the West Valley and then down south in Tucson. That's where we would like to go in the next little bit.
Awesome. Okay. And is there already, do you know if there's already a Down syndrome community in those areas?
There is. West Valley is actually pretty low on having groups like that. They do
Hmm.
have some, but as far as churches that do respite, there's not as readily available as it is in Chandler. And I don't really know
Yeah.
about Tucson.
Okay. Interesting. I love that. I can't
I
wait to
feel like
follow along with
Chandler.
that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's also terrifying because like last year, my
Of
husband and I
course.
stopped taking, like we resigned from being family pastors at that church to become the disability pastors, and so we are operating solely on fundraising and like some side jobs that William is doing. So it's terrifying as well because you're letting go of your financial security to pursue this dream that you believe in, but also
Yes. Yes.
it's scary. Yeah, it's scary at the same time.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So you've really completely flipped around your world since the girls were born then. Like everything has changed since then. Do you
Yeah.
feel like not to be dramatic, sorry.
No, it has 100%.
Do you feel like your community obviously your church has, of course, they sound amazing. Do you feel like your community has really embraced all of this? I know you guys have a pretty good presence for the Down syndrome community, but the disability community in general, do you feel like the community's really embraced everybody and all of the things you're trying to do, and also outside, like any other organizations that are going on in the area?
Yeah, and again, because of where we have geographically landed, we have not faced the kind of resistance that a lot of people do face. Um, Most people are pretty accepting, but something that's changed in my heart or in our family is realizing that um, our girls are more accepted because they're cute. They're they don't have a lot of aggressive behaviors. Some of the things that they do can be written off as being cute and little. Um, but what happens when they get older? And what happens when my friend whose kid is autistic? What happens whenever he tries to destroy something in public? People are not accepting of that. So it's almost like there's this like whitewashed version of disability that if they have Down syndrome or if they have other disabilities that are cute, it's more accepted than the people who are really struggling or have more medical devices or whatever. Um, Also, I love so Katie doesn't have a G tube anymore, but when she did, I I love to see other people's reaction when you're like just holding up a tube in public,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
company feeding or whatever. But then I noticed,
Yes.
okay, so the girl's birthday was last week, and obviously most of their friends are in the Down syndrome or our church community. And one of their friends has a G tube, and his mom was like just giving him a quick bolus before eating cake, just getting some protein. And I looked around and literally no one thought twice about the G tube because it's just part of our reality.
I love
William's
that.
parents, they live here now. They live in Sun City, kind of like an hour away. And I think before the girls, they probably would have been like their generation, very like, oh, don't do that in public, just because of the generation they grew up in. But his dad carried on a conversation with her while they were doing that and didn't blink an eye because he's done G tube stuff. They've watched the girls
Yeah.
while Katie had a G tube, and just the change in our family has been great. But it's kind of fun to just shock people sometimes.
That's amazing.
it's
I will
ridiculous, but-
notice Addie doesn't eat by mouth at all. She's only G-tube fed. And sometimes people like offer her something, or we'll be at a party and the other kids will be getting stuff and they'll be like, does she want a cupcake? And I'll be like, no, she's tube fed. And people will be like, what? Like you can tell they're looking at their face, like processing it, like, okay. Yes. But I did want to touch on something you said before, and I'm so glad you brought it up because it's something that I think is so important. Our girls have a disability that is very cute. That is, I put air quotes for people that are listening.
And it's visible.
Like, it's visible, which makes it easy for people to identify. And then it is cute, especially when they're children. Addie does this thing where she'll sign sorry and then she'll smack her brother. And people think it's funny. It's funny and it's cute. And people always crack up at it. It's so sassy. Oh my gosh. Or she'll sign sorry and then she'll chuck a toy or something. And it's so funny. But I'm like, if she was a 6-foot-tall teenage boy doing that, you wouldn't be cracking up. Like, if this was a different situation, you wouldn't be cracking up. It is something that they definitely benefit from, and that also is scary because someday they won't be cute little kids. So I think that is a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and so some of our people who come to Buddy Club, I won't share names because I don't have permission, but some of them are, like you said, 6 foot tall. They're like 30, 40-year-old males. And yes, they're gentle giants and very, sweet in their own way. But some of the behaviors would be, if they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, it could be detrimental. And if someone just interprets that the wrong way, But we have some kids who the whole time that they're at Buddy Club, and we've seen them grow up over the last 4 years, they've become from a preteen into this large, tall teenager and could overpower people so quickly. So we have 2 buddies with them just in case. But if they're nonverbal and not able to express how they're feeling in public, people just don't understand. That's why I think it is so important one of the programs that the girls' school does is they partner with the Gilbert Police, and they bring in the police all the time. And they because I think a few of the kids who go there, their parents are involved with the police. And it's actually funny because we just got a new children's pastor to not replace us, but like they're taking over what our role was at the church. And he used to work on this specific program in Gilbert. He was a police dispatcher. And so they expose the police department to what this looks like in real life. And they also are exposing the kids, to police are safe.
It goes both ways. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
But if they don't know that, if they don't have any training on that beforehand, your first reaction or their first reaction sometimes is not good. It's
absolutely
very bad. And I think that's a cool program. And I wish that all special needs schools or all police or any emergency services were trained to recognize what a disability looks like, or, on the broader spectrum, mental health disorders or drug abuse or whatever is going on.
Anything that could be, treated non-violently. Yes. Yeah. Something that parents often learn early on is that all behavior is communication, and that's really easy to apply to toddlers when they're still learning to talk. But as our kids get older and they're still nonverbal, sometimes it's harder to keep that in mind. Like a lot of Addie's behaviors are obviously frustration because we don't know what she wants. It's very clear. And I'm sure that's the same for your girls, especially as they're in school now and going out in the world and getting older. I'm sure that's a big frustration. I can't even imagine being a 30-year-old man being, whatever we said, 6 foot tall, presenting as a grown adult and not being able to communicate your feelings. I cannot imagine. So
Yeah.
the police department having exposure to that is huge. That's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it
That's
is
awesome.
it is a great program. And it's the older that the girls get, the more your worries open to
Yeah.
to different things. And so like Madison is 50 pounds now. I have to be careful with how I lift her or I'll throw my back out.
Yep.
I can still catch her whenever she runs. But part of taking care of them is also taking care of me. So like I've been working on cardio, working on eating healthy, working on mentally taking care of myself, because this is not a short-term job. This is
Nope.
our life, and this is where we're going to be for the rest of our lives. So
Yes.
yeah. I don't know really what else to say about that, but where I was going with that.
I love that. I think that's great. I mean, it's so important. I joke all the time, like on TikTok and stuff, about how Addie is so slow at eloping. She is so sneaky, and she'll like wait till you're not looking, and so she can get away. I don't know how many times she's gone into our neighbor's yard, which is fine. They all know. But I can quick walk or do a little jog and catch up with her. But in a decade, she's going to be outrunning me, and I'll be in my 40s, and I still need to be able to catch her. That's not going to go away. So that's a great point.
Exactly.
It's important for us to take care of ourselves for our own mental health and our physical health and our kids that we will be parenting probably a little longer than typical parents. So that's a really great point. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and
Okay.
extra locks never hurt.
Oh, we have all of the up high, the latch locks, all of our doors, because
same.
She'll get out so fast. Yes. We're in the process of getting a fence built in our front yard because she wants to get to that road so bad. I don't know what it is about it, but she wants to be there. Yes. Like, I'm going to lock you in if I can.
Yes.
Yeah. It's definitely something you don't think about if you don't have to, but gosh, these kids are fast.
Yeah. And they love the road. I don't know what it is.
They love it. They love that freaking road. Okay. So what do you think? What advice do you have for parents who are parenting multiple kids with disabilities? That is something we have in common. I do not have twins with Down syndrome. I do have another child who's 15 months older with an Addie who has a seizure disorder, though. So totally different. Nothing comparable at all. But do you have any advice for parents that have maybe multiple kids with autism or Down syndrome or, medical disorders, etc.?
Yeah. So I love what you brought up about like your child with the seizure disorder. It's totally different, whatever. And I think we dismiss parents in that realm a lot, the disability community, because it's not as, I don't know, the perception is like it's not the same. And so it's less. But I met a friend recently who her son has a medical, a very complex medical condition, but developmentally, he's right on track. So she's like, where do I fit? Where do I come to the special needs events? Do I, what community do we fit in? Because we have gone through so much as a family in the medical world, even though it's not developmental. It's a complex issue, I think, but I think not dismissing that is very important. If we are supposed to be an inclusive community, why would we say that one person's disability or one person's medical issue is less than another's? It doesn't make any sense. So
I agree.
I think if you are parenting multiple children with disabilities, that you have to give yourself some grace. And I'm preaching to the choir here because I often try and hold myself to a higher standard or get everything done or be superwoman. And sometimes you just have to give yourself a little bit of grace and take the shortcut. Buy the Walmart cupcakes instead of homemaking organic ones yourself. I would love for our kids to eat a fully organic diet, and we try to when we buy groceries and stuff. But sometimes for your mental health, you just got to do the thing. Buy the Walmart cupcakes. And yeah, it's such a hard thing because our girls are so similar. And they're different people. They have different personalities, different strengths and weaknesses, but they have the same diagnoses. And I think whenever you have two different or three different diagnoses, that your life becomes even more complex. If you have a partner, if you have a husband or a wife, and you're doing this together, congratulations. You are among very few people who have partners when they're going through this. And if you can hold on to that, if you can treat each other with kindness and grace, as well as treating yourself with kindness and grace, you will be in a much better space. And the major thing I would say is make your own community. If you are part of a faith background, find your community in that. If you are part of a pickleball, I don't know, whatever your community is. I've never played pickleball.
I haven't either, but I literally had a pickleballer on the podcast last week. That's
Oh,
so
gosh.
funny you say that.
That's funny. Yeah, but like, whatever your community is, either find it or make it, because
Yeah.
you won't survive without it.
No.
I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't found those people online the first few days into the diagnosis. And it wasn't a fix-all. Like, it didn't just fix everything, but it did let me know that I wasn't alone. And
Yes.
I had no idea about the disability world until I was shoved into it. And I feel like if you don't find that community, sometimes if your child doesn't have something very recognizable like Down syndrome or autism, if they have a different disorder or genetic condition or whatever, it's even more isolating. And our job as that community, as the special needs community, disability community, is to welcome and to include everybody, no matter what.
Yeah. I think that's so important. I was getting ready to ask one or two final questions to wrap things up. I cannot believe I forgot to touch on this, though. One of the reasons I first found your social media, besides the fact that one of my lovely friends, Crystal, moved from Arizona to near me, and I adore Crystal, and Brisbane, and her daughter is so cute. I hope she doesn't mind that I said her name on here. But besides that, because she told me all about you as well, is that your daughter Katie had a medical event. Was it last year now? Time is a blur.
Yeah.
Do you want? And it was totally different, but also similar to something that my daughter went through. Did you want to tell us about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. A year out, it's a lot less emotional than it was at the time.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the things that's really common with Down syndrome one of the stereotypes that totally holds true is the sleep apnea issue. So kids with Down syndrome, people with Down syndrome tend to struggle with sleep apnea. So Katie has had her tonsils removed, so has Madison to try and fix that. Didn't fix it, didn't help any, actually. And her doctor wanted to do what's called a DISE procedure, DISE, where basically he was going to look and see if her lingual tonsils were causing the problem. And then he was reducing the turbinates in her nose, like just making space, basically, because the problem is that they're small.
Yes.
So he did this procedure. It's the same ENT that we've had for all of their ENT procedures. He's great. We love him. He reduced the turbinates, found out the lingual tonsils were not the problem. Usually people go home the same day with that procedure. Because she has Down syndrome and she has a lot of problems with pain management after those kinds of things, we requested to stay a night, thinking that we would go home the next day. We didn't go home the next day because she would not take anything orally. She wouldn't eat, she wouldn't drink. So we were giving her IV nutrition, IV pain medicine. And we just figured, a couple extra days. So she just kept in recovery, just regular recovery, for a few days. And then William and I did a parent swap. I had been with her for 3 days, so we swapped places. And I went home with our other girls. Well, the next day, Katie developed a rash, and they wanted to send us home. They said, this is just a contact rash. I think if she's in her own environment, like maybe she'll thrive. And we're like, no, she's not magically going to thrive. We've done this with her tonsils. We know that she needs the IV medication until she's ready. And I'm so glad that he pushed, because they brought in a second opinion, or the first person said, oh, maybe it's viral, this rash. And it definitely wasn't. So they did the viral test, negative, whatever. Gave her Benadryl, for the rash. And that night, William continued to press because he said, Katie is not okay. Something is wrong, even though she didn't have a fever. She didn't have any of this, anything else. And so they said, okay, we'll bring in a second opinion doctor. That doctor comes in and she literally starts to tank right there. He said, well, her stats aren't great. So let's move her down to the ICU where they have an easier access to oxygen, like just better support for her. He calls me, tells me, we're going down to the ICU. No big deal. She's fine. She's setting up, playing, totally fine, whatever. And then I went to bed with my 6-month-old infant at that time. And I woke up to someone pounding on the back door, shouting my name. And I ignored it because I was asleep. And then they continued to pound on the door, and it was our good friend. He's like, hey, it's David. Open the door, Sara. And I finally recognized who it was and opened the door. And he told me that Katie had crashed. And come to find out, she had arrested 7 times. She got down to the ICU and they tried to get a blood gas on her. And as soon as they did that, they started the intubation process because they said she is going to go down. She's going to go down quick. And William just stood outside the door listening to them perform CPR on our 5-year-old. And if you know how tiny Katie is, that's terrifying. 7 rounds of CPR, 45 minutes, she was down before they decided to put her on ECMO. And the doctor got her successfully on ECMO. By the time that happened, I had finally made it to the hospital, and our friend was watching the other girls. And we just spent the night in that waiting room, waiting to hear if she was alive. And we would see people in the hallway crying, medical staff, and thought, okay, this is it. She's done. And we just spent the next few days waiting. We didn't know she had passed. Turns out that she had sepsis. She had strep A. The doctor said she probably, after all of they did lots of investigating and whatever as she was recovering. And they said that probably she's a carrier for strep A, which makes sense because we get strep all the time. And we didn't know that she had it at the time. And whenever the doctor performed the DICE procedure, he did very minimal cutting, very minimal, but somehow it got into the bloodstream. And because she was on pain medicine, her fever didn't present, and the rash was the only indication until she was beyond help. So she spent that first week on ECMO, and we just didn't know if she was going to live or die. If you've ever gone through that before, which I think you were saying you have.
Yeah, it's been 3 years since Addie's cardiac arrests and CPR.
Yeah, if you've gone through that, those tubes are huge. And this tiny little child, this machine is literally taking all the blood out of her body and putting it back in. There's no heartbeat. She doesn't even have a heartbeat. And it's just terrifying. And I don't really know how to put it into words other than it's awful. It is literally the worst. So they finally got a heartbeat on day 3. They had to do a cardiac procedure just to get her heart beating again because of fluid buildup. They actually had to make a hole, which is funny because she had her holes repaired when she was a baby. So that's something that we may have to revisit later in our life. But for right now, it's stable. And I was like, what? You already fixed that hole. Why are we going back and doing this again? But it relieved it for that moment. And she recovered. She was off of ECMO in a week and then off the vent in another week or 2. But one thing that was really amazing looking back on it is the literal thousands of people who were praying or thinking or sending good wishes her way. The denomination that I'm a part of is, like I said, worldwide. And I had a leader. The way our leadership structure works, there's a lot of like checks and balances, and there are several like main leaders who are in charge of world areas. Well, one of them used to be my boss when I was in seminary, and I just know her through various ways. And she messaged me and said, "Hey, Sara," she had been sharing our story wherever she went. And she said, "Hey, Sara, I am in Calcutta right now for an assembly. And I just wanted to let you know that I've had so many people come up to me and tell me that they're praying for your daughter." Like her story went around the world because of our faith family, because of the internet, because of social media, which can be terrible at times. Because of that,
Yep.
People were joining with us. They were standing with us and helping us hold space for the fear that we were feeling in that moment. And I think that is so powerful. Um, Even if you're not a person of faith, I still believe that we can all believe in community. If that's not your thing, if that's not where you are, that the power of that is, I can't describe it. I couldn't even go through all the messages. Crystal was one of the people who messaged me the most. Every hour, every day, she was saying, "Hey, I'm here with you. What can I do? What can I do? How is she?" And interpreting some medical stuff for me. Um, because I don't know much about the medical field. But yeah, the power of community in that time was huge. And we ended up spending about 2 and a bit months in the hospital, as Katie just improved and continued to get better and better. And we spent a few more months at home before we sent her back to school, because she was like in a wheelchair. Just she had to relearn walking, and she came home on a G tube again. Just took it very slow. But now she is back to herself. There's Whenever she went down, they prepared us for the worst. Like, even if she comes out of this, there will be brain damage. There will be significant setbacks. There will be this, there will be that. And somehow she survived 7 rounds of CPR with no broken bones, no broken ribs. And she survived all of that with no brain injuries. And we praise God for that, because we believe he had a hand in creating those doctors who brought the science into her life, that saved her. And we're just so thankful for that in our community. That's huge.
Well, thank you for sharing. I talk all the time on social media about Addie's cardiac arrests and CPR, and it's been a little over 3 years since that happened, and that still brought tears to my eyes. I think one of the best things, and we are not part of any specific church or anything, but one of the best things that came from that is the exact same thing you said, is that people from all over the world were sending us well wishes. I got like videos of entire churches praying for Addie. I'm like gonna cry just talking about it right now. Like, I still, like, even just this last year when I met you at the DSC and Moms Retreat, people were coming up, like not a ton, it was less than like the year before that, as it gets further out. People would come to me and be like, "Oh, you're Addie's mom. I followed along when that all happened. I'm so glad she's doing good." Like, that was the best thing that came out of the worst days of our lives, when, same as you, we were sat down and told, "We don't know if your baby's going to live or not. We can't tell you anything about that.
Yeah.
We don't know if there's, a TBI. We don't know if she'll ever be anything but somebody that lays here." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was horrific, but the community, oh my gosh, that was so powerful in every way. Like, that made the whole thing bearable, because otherwise I don't know how we would have survived that. So
No.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad you had the same experience. I'm so proud of our community for stepping up for families like ours when we need it.
Yeah. We're literally in survival mode. And like when they send in palliative care, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is it. And then they told me, we don't just do death. Like we're here to make her comfortable in a in a terrible situation. But whenever they can continue to send all of these people in, and like the chaplains and the care teams and all this, it's
they
bad.
don't think it's looking good.
Yeah. But yeah, we're very thankful for our community.
That. Yeah. We're girls. I guess your youngest probably doesn't remember it. Were your other girls okay through it? I know we had some behaviors from our other kids through everything, expectedly so,
Yeah. I mean,
it was hard, but it was,
yeah, you could tell that Madison just was kind of lost. She still went to school. It was over Thanksgiving and Christmas, so there was a lot of home time and things like we were in there from like November to the end of January, and so a lot of the holiday stuff I think
Sorry, I
kept
didn't
them
mean to make a face.
distracted.
That was the exact same time Addie's happened. That's so weird. Sorry.
Wow,
That's
yeah,
why I made the face. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
No, that's yeah. And so they couldn't visit because it was flu season, and but I think all the holiday stuff helped. My parents came out and my sister for several weeks, and then William's parents took up where they left out. His parents had actually just moved here at the end of October, so it was
From Ireland.
from Georgia. Yeah, they lived in Georgia with
Oh,
like
okay,
where my
okay.
parents lived, but still, like
Okay.
having
Still,
a set of
yeah.
grandparents here was huge. Yeah, and so we
Yeah.
just
Oh,
lived in that survival mode for several months, and we just swapped every day and tried to make it as normal for them as we could. We didn't have a lot of huge behaviors, just a
good.
feeling of lost, kind of lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And ever
And
since
that's
then, they sleep
understandable.
together. Like they have bunk beds, but ever since that happened, they only want to sleep together, and that's really cute to
I
me.
believe it. Yeah.
Mhm,
Oh, I'm glad they have each other. That's so sweet. Okay,
mhm.
Sarah, I've kept you long enough. I'll ask one final question.
Okay.
What has been, sorry, what has been the most rewarding part of this journey, would you say, if you had to pick one thing?
I think that the most rewarding part of this journey has been the complete 180 of our lives. Is that the right term? 180, complete turnaround
Yes.
of our lives. I believed that I was a compassionate person before I met Katie and Madison, before I had them. And they have completely changed my perspective on people. As a Christian, I believe that everyone is made in the image of God, but that was just kind of a party line before I met them, or before I've grown to know them. And now I have so much more compassion for people who don't look like me, people who have been raised differently or from different countries or whatever. I feel so much more deeply for that than I did before I knew them. And yes, this life is hard. There are very hard moments, and I feel like I am running a hamster wheel most of the time, just trying to keep everything together. But the benefits have far outweighed that. Just knowing them is knowing pure innocence and pure love, like you can't get anywhere else. And they have changed me into a much better person. Motherhood in general, I think, does that. But also being able to see the world through their eyes and meet such a big community because of them, it's changed us. It's changed how we see the world, and it definitely makes us thankful for what we have.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing. And where can people find you on social media if they want to follow along?
Yeah, so we are on Instagram as at down with the Robinsons. I'll have you put it in the bio because there's like
Yes.
periods after. I copied Crystal's because I couldn't think of a better one.
Oh, hers
She's
is
down with the
that,
books.
isn't it? Down the
Yeah,
books.
she's
Yeah,
down with the
I
books,
didn't even realize that.
yeah, I was trying to come up with a name. It was because I never intended to do social media besides family and friends. But after how it impacted me when I got the diagnosis, I realized I couldn't do anything but share our story for the sole purpose of helping others. For Buddy Club, you can find us, I think it's at Buddy Club Respite. Again, I'll send you the links for that.
Perfect.
But yeah, you can follow along that way. On Facebook, I'm just Sara Robinson. And
Perfect.
yeah.
Okay, I'll put that all in the bio for the show. And everybody else, if you've made it this far, please follow, leave me 5 stars, share this podcast with a friend or two, follow on social media. TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook is at The Inclusion Effect. And thank you so much to everyone for helping me build this community of passionate advocates. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Anna.
Thanks.